What should the federal role and government role generally be with respect to freight and goods movement? The fact that Panama is making a multi-billion-dollar investment in expanding the canal. I mean, if we put the percentage of our GDP into our transportation that Panama is putting into their facility, we would have a super system. And while it is not the game changer of all game changers, it is going to be a significant impact, and we have not been taking the steps we should be doing to get ready for that. In terms of what's been happening, a major breakthrough in the Recovery Act that created the Tiger program that gave DOT, really for the first time, funding that they could put into any kind of transportation facility, provided it was going to have good results. And a good deal of that Tiger investment has, in fact, gone into freight facilities. A growing emphasis on freight because people recognize this is important for our economic future. Not just how do we more effectively bring our imports in from China or South Asia, but also as we hope to become more of an return to being more of an export economy, we've got to get that stuff to where it's going to go if we're going to get that benefit. There is now a national freight policy in law that says we should emphasize competitiveness, we should be concerned about safety, security, and resilience, we should keep our freight system in a state of good repair, we should operate it in a way that deals with performance, and we should reduce its environmental impacts. So now we know what the goals are. We need to work on how to do that. Secretary LaHood said, well, even though it wasn't in the statute, a National Freight Advisory Committee would be a useful contribution to this discussion. 47-member committee, wide for every mode of transportation, every kind of interest group, safety people, labor, ports, airports, shippers, everybody who has an interest brought together to help advise. Ex officio federal members, the modal administrators or deputies from the modes that have freight as part of their mandate. There are members from EPA, from Commerce, from the Corps of Engineers, and linked with a parallel committee that exists within the Commerce Department that's looking at supply chain. What have we been doing? DOT asked us to all get together as a group, all 47, and say what are the key issues, what should the national freight effort look like. We looked at safety issues, we looked at how to make a multimodal network. We said a lot more needs to be done in terms of streamlining the process in order to deliver these projects, and more data is needed. We need to understand technology better. Again, we haven't provided answers. We've just kind of thrown out that if DOT really wants a strategic plan, this is what they need to work on. And it's an important time. As you probably know, the MAP 21 legislation expires on September 30. Shortly before that time, the Highway Trust Fund goes broke and will not have the money to pay the bills for the states. Will we be able to fix that in time? I hope so. I'm really confident that when we get to the end of the day on a new reauthorization bill, freight will be a key part of it. I am not confident at all as to when this will happen. Why am I confident? Because everything that has been put on the table so far from legislative proposers has had a strong component. The administration's Grow America bill featuring the freight provisions as key elements. I heard Secretary Fox the other morning doing the pitch for his bill. The very first thing he said is it's going to revolutionize freight investment. That's where we need to be spending money. They're talking about a 4-year, $10 billion multimodal freight program, half of it in the form of what they call incentive grants, half of it in terms of discretionary investments. So incentive grants are formula money that goes to the states for freight purposes, but they cannot access it unless they have a freight plan and unless they have relationships with the freight community and unless they are connected together into a national network. The Senate has reported out only one part of what will be a Senate reauthorization bill. It's a 6-year reauthorization to be funded at least at current levels. I think we need to do more, but we certainly don't need to be doing less. It does have a freight program, $6 billion over 6 years, starts smaller and ramps up to $2 billion a year, but very much highway-oriented, not much in the way of multimodal investment. The House, and they've produced a report, it came out about 3 or 4 months ago, saying when we pass a bill, it should have multimodal provisions, it should have major freight emphasis, it should have federal investment, and we're committed to make it work, not to break it down into the pieces. So the big issue for which there is as yet no answer is how do we pay for all this stuff? Our advisory committee will talk about that in July. I'm sure we will not come to consensus. I'm not going to ask the impossible. We want to get the ideas out there. What kind of things work, what don't, what do you like, what don't you like, so we know where the minefield is and can help people come through it. But it is a big issue. What can we get through in a short extension? What do we have to put off to the 114th Congress, who will be elected in November and sworn in January, and we don't know what they will look like. The big issue is when do we get to long-term reinvestment, a future in which investments can be made by states and others, and we hope one in which the freight system can both be the beneficiary and, frankly, be among those who are the benefactors. In a stunning decision, the trucking industry has said, please, will you increase our taxes? We want to go for improving our system, but we want to pay more taxes. The barge operators, the same. Official industry position is we want to pay more. The AAA has come out formally in favor of increased gasoline taxes. So everybody knows things need to be done. I'm hopeful that freight can be one of the ways to help make that done.